Well, hey there, and welcome back to Heimler's History. In this video, we're continuing to look at the required foundational documents for AP government, and that means it's time to talk about Federalist 51. So if you're ready to get that brain cow's milk separation of power style, well, let's get to it. So right out of the gate, let's begin with the central and most famous passage in this essay written by James Madison. What is government itself but the greatest of all reflections on human nature? If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. So here you get a real sense of Madison's opinion of humankind. Like if people were angels, we wouldn't even need a government. Everybody would just act right. But people are not angels. In Madison's estimation, human beings are a lot less like angels and more like selfish, sentient turds dressed up in clothes. So in light of that, human beings need a government, and that government is there to protect the liberty of the people. And so supposing we agree on that, the next question is, how do we create a government that both has the power to protect liberty while at the same time does not have enough power to destroy liberty? Madison says it this way: in framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this: you must first enable the government to control the governed, and in the next place oblige it to control itself. So what's the answer? How do you create a government that is both powerful and yet not too powerful? Madison's answer: the separation of powers and checks and balances. And this manner of restricting power cannot be imposed upon the branches of government externally. Rather, the defect must be supplied by so contriving the interior structure of the government as that its several constituent parts may, by their mutual relations, be the means of keeping each other in their proper places. So the different branches of government must be created in such a way that they balance and check each other's power. So how would such a government look? Well, first, Madison says, it is evident that each department should have a will of its own, and consequently should be so constituted that the members of each should have as little agency as possible in the appointment of the members of the others. He says each branch needs as much power independent of the others as possible, so they can't go around messing in each other's business, and that power needs to be basically equal between the three branches. But there is an objection here. If you look at the Constitution, it's pretty clear that a disproportionate amount of power is put into the hands of the legislative branch, which is to say the Congress. And look, that's exactly as it should be, since it's Congress which directly represents the voice of the people. So if we're wanting to keep things equal power-wise, what are you going to do to this beefy legislature over here? You're going to have to divide that power too. The remedy for this inconveniency is to divide the legislature into different branches and to render them by different modes of election and different principles of action as little connected with each other as the nature of their common functions and their common dependence on society will admit. So how do we keep the legislature from having too much power? You divide its power into two, which is exactly what the Constitution did. Congress is divided into a bicameral legislature, which is composed both of the House and the Senate, each of which holds a portion of the legislative power. And if your heart is already beating fast at all that subdivision of power, well then Madison goes even further and keeps chopping. In the compound Republic of America, the power surrendered by the people is first divided between two distinct governments, and then the portion allotted to each subdivided among distinct and separate departments. So not only is the federal government's power divided among the branches, power is then further divided between the national government and the state governments, which is a system of governance called federalism. So with power divided and apportioned to so many different actors, liberty will necessarily be upheld, even though the Constitution is placing more power in the hands of the federal government than there was under the Articles of Confederation. But if you are not convinced that this division of power will keep the government's power in its proper bounds, the Constitution also provides a system of checks and balances through which each branch can check the power of the others. So for example, the executive branch can check the legislative branch by vetoing laws. The legislative branch can check the executive branch by its powers of impeachment and removal from office. The judicial branch can check the other two branches by ruling on the constitutionality of laws and executive actions. And those are only a few examples, but the point is each branch has the power to restrain the power of the other branches. And that, in Madison's estimation, provides what he calls a double security of protection for the liberty of the people. And then Madison spends the rest of his essay talking again, like he did in Federalist 10, about the dangers of factions. And he returns to the same conclusion: the more factions there are, the less able any one of them will be to dominate the rest. And so in the case of factions, just like in the separation of powers in the government, a single principle prevails: ambition must be made to counteract ambition. In other words, we don't have angels governing us, nor are we ourselves angels. Rather, people and governments always seek to preserve their own interests against the interests of everyone else. And That means the best expedient to liberty, given our corrupted human nature, is to set all our ambitions against each other, and in that way tyranny cannot be entertained because compromise and concession will be required to get anything done. Okay, that's what you need to know about Federalist 51 for the AP Government curriculum. Here's some more videos over here on the foundational documents, and if you need more help with the content of Unit 1, you can watch these videos right here. Click right here to grab my review packet, which will help you get an A in your class and a 5 on your exam in May. That's all I got. Heimler out.